What's going on, everybody? Bill Mack here. Thanks once again for another edition of Pro Wrestling Unleashed. Glad you folks could join me. This is the results from WWE RAW, the August the 7th, 2017. Hope you folks enjoyed the video today as I give you results from this past show. Pretty decent show. Consider RAW standards. A lot going on, a few surprises here. So let's just get right into the video, or right into the results. The show begins with the Miz and the Miz Taraj basically having an edition of Miz TV, and he calls out Jason Jordan to finish their interview, quote, they didn't finish last week, and he was going to get payback on Jason Jordan. Well, Kurt Angle came out and he said that, Jason's got a match against Kurt Axel later on, so he's getting ready for that matchup, but I do have you a special guest. And then, lo and behold, it's the Brock Lesnar and his advocate Paul Heyman come out there. So then we basically see the Miz kind of he and Paul Heyman going back and forth. Promo works and talks about how Miz talks about how his money's on the other three guys and that Brock's going to walk out no longer champion. And Paul Heyman told Miz, "Do you like role play?" He said, "Well, what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that you and Bo Dallas and Axel are the other three members in the match at Fatal 4-Way at SummerSlam, and Brock's going to show you." So Brock gets in there and lays out all of them, hits F5s to Miz and Curtis Axel and to Bo Dallas, and he gets upset and grabs the belt and he walks on out with Paul Heyman. So what a great start to to Raw. We see Sheamus taking on Seth Rollins. Remember last week what's been going on here between Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose and Sheamus and Cesaro. Well, Rollins basically goes up to the top rope to the ending to their match, and Cesaro ends up distracting Seth Rollins, which allows Sheamus to get the roll up. Well, then after the matchup, Seth ends up getting double teamed by both, and the fans are waiting for Dean Ambrose, but he never shows up. Dean told him, "Look, don't fight battles you can't vouch for. I won't be going out there." And he stood true to who he was. Because Seth's been trying to get Dean the last few weeks to know he's turned over a new leaf. He's a different person than he was then, and Dean still doesn't trust him. So Dean told him, he's not going to do it. And Seth, after the match, after the beatdown, he comes back out and he calls Dean a jerk, and because Dean says, "Look, I know I'm gonna look like a jerk for not going out there." He says, "You are a jerk," and Dean told him, he says, "I'm not getting burned again," and that Dean himself has got to face Cesaro tonight, and he's going at it alone himself. So that's the way it ends with that. We see Jason Jordan basically take his interest for his matchup against Curtis Axel, but we see that due to the events of Lesnar, Curtis Axel won't be able to be cleared for a match tonight. So then they get this local guy. His name is Jean-Pierre Goulet was his name. He was obviously from Canada, which, they ran Canada tonight, and they'll be in Canada, or last night they'll be in Canada for SmackDown. This match was basically an athletic showing for Jason Jordan. He pretty much had the match won. There wasn't a whole lot of offense that Goulet could really do, and he hit that suplex neck breaker that he did last week. That's what he hit again this week, and he gets the win. So it's basically just a few matches to put over Jason Jordan over on the Raw brand. So then Bayley gets called out, and they ask her how is she feeling about her injury and stuff, because she injured her shoulder last week against Nia Jax in a matchup, and now Bayley won't be able to compete at SummerSlam. But she said that what they set up was 2 triple threat women's matches tonight. The winner of each would face against Raw next week, and whoever won would take on Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam. So the fans were really booing Bayley, which was hard to believe, but they were booing Bayley. And, she said that if it was her choice, she'd have her buddy Sasha Banks win. So then Sasha Banks has her triple threat match against Emma and Alicia Fox. Alexa Bliss came out, she said a commentary to watch, scout the talent out. And we see that the ending comes when Banks put the bank statement on Alicia Fox. Emma comes in trying to roll up, and then we see Banks end up hitting the bank statement on Emma. So much for Emma's TV time she's been asking about. Then we cut to Enzo Amore talking to Big Show about what happened last week about Kaz, and then the club basically interrupt, and the club challenged them to a matchup. So now we have a matchup of Enzo and Big Show taking on the club. So this match in the middle, we see in the middle of the match, Big Cass makes an appearance out there, and it becomes more of a distraction. And then Gallows ends up knocking the Big Show off the apron because the Big Show's focused on Cass. And then we see the Magic Killer gets hit on Enzo Amore, and then Anderson ends up kicking Amore in the face and covering him for the win. So Cass once again becomes a distraction. Then we see after the match, Kaz goes out there and he goes and jumps on Big Show and attacks him. But then he goes and Amore tries to jump on him. He ends up Kaz chases Amore around the ring, only to get caught by a KO punch from Big Show. Kaz sells that KO punch really well because after when the Big Show and Enzo left, Kaz was stumbling all over the place. So that man sold that punch. We see Finn Balor come to the ring, and he talks about Bray Wyatt and what happened last week. And, he said he's not afraid of Bray Wyatt. He calls Bray Wyatt to come out, and he says, hey, don't start what you can't finish. And Wyatt comes out after his little promo, goes black, and he comes and appears in the ring, tries to attack Balor. Balor gets the best of him, and then it goes black again, and then he appears again on the Titantron. So it just shows you the mysteriousness that Bray Wyatt really has with him. So and he ends up telling Balor that he's going to rip him out of the heavens and he's going to bring his fans down with him. So looks to be the feud between Balor and Wyatt at SummerSlam. Then we come down to Dean Ambrose taking on Cesaro. Now, this was basically the reverse of what happened. This time, it's Sheamus that does Sheamus doing the distraction, but we see that basically instead of Cesaro rolling up Dean, ends up hitting, rolling up Cesaro for the win. And then after this, we see that Sheamus and Cesaro end up attacking Ambrose. And then we see Rollins go out there and help him clear out the ring. They both take a long stare at each other for a few minutes. Finally, Dean, after the crowd's cheering, holds his fist bump out. But then Rollins looks at it, and he turns around and walks up the ramp and leaves. So it's just more threads to the story there, but we'll see. We see Tozawa taking on Daivari in a rematch. Daivari claimed that he was going to ruin Tozawa's cruiserweight chances at WrestleMania or SummerSlam to face Neville for the title. We see Tozawa's shoulders no longer wrapped up, so according to Titus, he's healed up. Tozawa ends up hitting that flying swanton bomb off the top onto Daivari for the win. Now, this is the other part of the triple threat women's matchup. We have Nia Jax. She's taking on Mickie James and Dana Brooke. Most likely, we saw Bliss yet again back at commentary. And we see basically that she just throws both women around. Nia's a monster. She ends up taking Dana Brooke and dropping that big leg of hers on it, like remnants of Hulk Hogan. And she ends up getting the pin on Dana Brooke. 1, 2, 3. So the number one contenders match next week will be Sasha Banks taking on Nia Jax, who will go on to face Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam. It remains to be seen. My money's on Sasha. Last but not least, this is the main event of the night. We see Braun Strowman taking on Roman Reigns in a last man standing match. Remember, you got to you render your opponent unconscious that he can't answer the 10 count. This was a brutal match, a back and forth. I mean, all over the place. These two guys can throw down this type of match. We see Reigns end up hitting Strowman with the spear, and as he's going to stalk Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe appears out of nowhere locks in a coquina clutch and chokes out Roman Reigns, which allows Braun Strowman to get up at the count of 8. He ends up getting the match, and Joe walks up the ramp like he's really happy with what he had done. So this just adds fuel to the fire for that fatal 4-way that's going to happen for the Universal title between Brock and Joe and Reigns and Braun Strowman. So that was the show. Like I said, folks, there's a lot going on. We see, the finals of the #1 contenders match with the women's title will be next week. It just remains to be seen of what's going to happen with Ambrose and Seth. Will they decide to sew things up? We'll just have to wait till next week and find out. So until next time, this is Bill Mack, Pro Wrestling Unleashed. And if you like this video, please drop a like on it. Share this video with others. And also, if you're not subscribed to my channel, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I can use as many subs as I possibly can to try to pump out wrestling content for you. So until I drop my next video, this is Bill Mack, Pro Wrestling Unleashed, saying, take it easy.